Welcome back to the Gothic Heart. We've got an exciting episode today. Well, exciting mostly for me because the person that we're guesting today, Leah, lives in Colorado, just like me and not far from me. So that's very exciting as I've never had a Colorado guest on before. But as far as exciting for the rest of you listeners, this is Leah. She goes by the Mystic Autistic, and she is a Reiki healer, Reiki expert. And I cannot wait to learn all of the transformative powers of Reiki from her and her perspective and how it can help us. So I'm going to let her introduce herself. So, Leah, let's hear all about it.
Hello. Hi, Amity and Gothic Heart listeners. I am Leah. I live in Aurora, Colorado, and like Amity said, I am a Reiki healer. That is not all I do. I'm also a writer. I have a master's degree in writing, and I've written probably around 300 stories on self-enhancement and self-empowerment. They're on medium.com. You can also find most of them on my website, which is free, leahwelborn.net. And my podcast is called Empower Your Magical Self. That's also my Reiki business name. My entire reality is about empowering my magical self and helping other people empower their magical selves. So there you go. That's who I am, Amity.
Well, and that fits in perfectly because so much of what we talk about here is empowering ourselves to be authentic to who we are
Yes,
and not shy away based on what others may say, think, do.
absolutely.
So this is incredible because that is literally what you've built your business upon. So
Yes.
share with us specifically, let's just start with Reiki healing, what it is,
Okay.
how you came into it, and we'll start from there.
Okay. Reiki, very simply, is universal healing energy. That's all it is. If anybody tells you differently, they're fabricating a little bit. Most people conceive of Reiki as being a Japanese phenomenon. They credit the invention of Reiki to a gentleman named Master Usui, who lived in the 19th century. However, that's not really correct. That would be akin to saying Edison invented electricity. Edison in no way invented electricity. Electricity exists. Edison and Tesla and other fellows figured out how to tap into it and use it. Same exact thing about Reiki. Master Usui never said, I invented Reiki. He said, I discovered this thing. Isn't this cool? Now I want to pass this on. In Master Usui's mind, the lineage of Reiki has gone on for 18,000 years. So that's way before the pyramids, way before anything has been recorded in history. Whether or not that's true, I don't know. I can't speak to it. But I mean, electricity has been in existence since time immemorial. It's an energy. Same thing with Reiki. So I'm going to go with that and say that Reiki just exists in the same way that electricity does. So what a Reiki healer learns to do is learn to channel that healing energy through him or herself and pass it on to other people so that they can heal themselves. So there's nothing particularly, sainted about being a Reiki healer. It is a lineage. It comes down through people. So one goes through Reiki training, someone who has been trained by another master and passes it down. So that gives it the little extra spiritual oomph. That's a little bit more than another wonderful modality like acupuncture or acupressure or something like that. It's a little bit of a more spiritually tuned in practice. That's what it is.
Okay. All right. I do have some fellow friends and their kids that go to a Reiki healer. So, and I know they find
Wonderful.
such great benefits from it. So, so tell us, great. So we know what it is now. So
Uh-huh.
how do you teach people or you do your workshops? How do they
I don't
benefit from
teach.
it? What does it do for them? Okay.
Okay,
All
so
right. Well, that's
so
good to
so
know.
if someone were going to be a client and set up an appointment with me, yeah, I'm not at the level to teach, so I don't want to make any claim about that. I'm a
Okay.
healer as opposed to a teacher. So if someone were to come to me as a client, I take clients either in person in my studio in Aurora. I also take a lot of distant clients who are all over the world, and I see them through the internet, just like you and I are talking. And people would say, well, how does that work? I don't know. But to tell you
Yes.
the truth, I don't know how Amity and I are able to talk to each other like this. It's a mystery to me, but it's working. Same thing with Reiki that's distant. The person and I will sit down in an internet call like this, and I will ask them if there's anything particular they'd like to work on. I'll say the prayers to bring in their spirit guides, my spirit guides, the spirit of Reiki. I'll do the specific hand signals to bring in that person's energy body into my studio. So they're lying in their home. Their energy body is with me here on my table. And while they're lying there, I'm working on their body energetically, and we're corresponding. I'll be saying, I'm feeling a lot of stuff in your hip. And often they'll say, well, yeah, I'm really stiff there. That's been a very hurtful place for me. And so we'll work on getting the energy going through there. It's fascinating how it works in exactly the same way, whether the person is in my studio or not. It's really wacky thing to get my head around, but it works, and it's a gift. It's truly a gift.
Yep. I just recorded with a few people of different ways of healing, bringing on all kinds of different healers, and they were saying the same thing, that it was discovered sort of around the pandemic time, that it was
Yeah,
working virtually, and it's just
right.
been such a great way to open accessibility for everybody. So that's
Absolutely.
great news. So what? So you're a healer. So you're not teaching people to heal themselves yet, but
Uh,
you're healing people that.
yes, come to me. And I mean,
Okay, just want to make sure I get it right. Okay, great.
absolutely, yeah. And I mean, if you think about it, it's if you think of it akin to electricity, once you get that electricity, that energy going, it's a lot easier to keep things going and moving. So it's very different than a treatment, say taking a pill or getting an injection. Like when that wears off, it's gone. Reiki is something, it's like
Yep.
a boost. It's like taking an energetic spiritual shower or bath, in which, okay, I'm clean now, clean slate. Let me get things going more in a direction that is what I want, as opposed to just being taken over by my energy.
That was a great way to put it. I
Oh,
love
thank
that.
you.
So, Reiki, what can you work on? I mean, you talked about hip, etc. Is it mind, body, is it everything,
All of
or
the above.
what can it help with?
It can literally help anything. I had a woman a couple of weeks ago call me and tell me, she found me through a friend and said, my husband is in the worst depression I've ever seen him, and I'm scared. I'm scared he's gonna take himself out. And so I was able, through a call with him, to really get his energy moving. I felt that his heart was extremely restricted and not connected to the other parts of his body. And when I asked him, and he said, yes, that's exactly how I feel. That's exactly how I feel. And so I was able, and I'm not saying I as an ego, Reiki was able to sort of
Right.
blast that open and connect to with his throat, to his solar plexus, so he could externalize these things that were happening to him and help get that energy moving so that he can get himself back on his feet. It was just that boost he needed. So it can help with depression. It can help with any kind of bodily. We store a lot of trauma in our joints. So a lot of times as we age, we start to have joint pain, even if we haven't had some sort of traumatic injury. What a football player, whatever. Why do my shoulders hurt all the time? Because we store a lot of trauma there. And Reiki does a really good job of just blasting out those joints. And I like for my clients to visualize all of the pain and trauma leaving their body like butterflies, just taking off from their body when we're in a session. And conceiving of the fact that we are all actually energy. 100% everything that we see is energy. It's just a matter of how fast it's moving. It looks like matter because it's so slow. But if we can get that energy moving around and not being so stuck in the ugly pattern it was in that was causing whatever pain it is, your headache, your depression, your hip joint, whatever. So you can see, since it's energy healing, it can be used for absolutely everything because everything is energy. It's just gorgeous. It's mind blowing.
So I love that, and I love the way you put it. The metaphors and things that you're using in examples are really making it easy to understand. So,
Thank you. I'm a
for
writer,
someone,
so
or
that's my job.
ah, that's a good point.
Yes.
So, for someone who doesn't know Reiki, doesn't know anything about it, but let's say traditional forms of, regular psychology, psychotherapy, etc., has not been working. Is this a good option for them to try?
I think it's an excellent option for them to try. And I don't think that that Reiki needs to be exclusionary of anything else. I
Oh,
would never
right.
say to somebody, do Reiki, don't go to a psychiatrist. Never, never, never. This is like a little extra boost. It's a little like
Hmm.
bam, it's a shower. You don't want to go into a new part of your life wearing the dirt and the grunk of stuff that's happened before. You don't garden all morning and then just go about to work. Ew, and it's the same thing with energy. You've got that gunk all over you and you feel it and other people feel it, whether or not you're acknowledging it in your consciousness, it's there. So just get rid of it. Just clean up. That's all.
Ugh,
Just
I
take a
love
bath.
that. I love
Just,
that.
it's easy.
How many of us would love to just let go of all that anxiety and extra thoughts and
And
that
that's
feels like
what
it would be
Reiki is for. I
amazing.
mean, so many people, especially, I'm going to say it, especially women with kids, like, I don't have time. I don't have time to take 30 minutes. Sorry, I don't have time. So I say, give me 25 minutes and give me half an hour, give me $25 and we're going to make the time. Because you're going to lay down and you're going to listen to me and you're just going to chill out and let me do my thing. And half an hour later, it's done. So instead of driving around ruminating about, I can't get my energy clean, which we
Yeah,
all
yeah.
do, just invest.
Oh
Invest
yeah.
$25 in half an hour and bam, I'll get you clean.
I love that. So how does it well, I want to ask one more question and then I kind
Of
of want to
course.
delve into sort of how you got this way. But how how can we use Reiki or how can Reiki help us in conjunction with whatever else we're using to really empower us to be authentic, empower us to be ourselves, or empower us to embrace things we may have held back from in the past for fear of what others may think.
Sure. There's one very simple thing that people can do that doesn't involve seeing someone like me or another Reiki healer at all. And I might not remember all 5 principles, so I'm going to refer you to an article that I wrote. But there are 5 Reiki
And we'll
principles.
post it.
Very
We'll
good,
post it
very
below.
good. There are
Yes.
5 Reiki
Perfect.
principles that anyone can incorporate into their life, anyone at any state of their life. One of them is, and they all start just for today, because we don't want to think like, oh my God, I'm never going to get to act out and do whatever my favorite vice is again. Forget it. Just for today. Just for today, I will have patience and kindness for all living things. Just for today, I will, right? There you go. Just for today, though. Just for today. I
Yeah.
will do all of my work honestly. And we're talking about internal work too. Don't lie to yourself.
Mm.
Just for today. Anyway, I'm going to get them wrong if I just try to rattle them off. But there are 5 basic principles that are just so simple. And I'll send them to you so you can put them up. So simple and
Yeah.
so, they just make so much sense. And if you really commit to yourself, okay, just for today, I'll follow these 5 principles. What can it hurt? Maybe it'll make you have a great day. And tomorrow you'll want to say, okay, I want to try this again. So
Yeah.
that
I
would
mean,
be my
just try it.
recommendation. Exactly. Just give it a shot. They're very simple. There probably are not things you're really doing, not you personally, but everybody.
Or like
Like
consciously maybe doing. Right.
exactly, exactly. It's about making that conscious decision. Okay, I just for today, I will not get angry. How about that one? That's one of them, and that's kind of a tough one.
Yeah.
Just for today, I will not get angry. Not at
Yes.
all. Not even a little. Yeah.
Maybe my kids could do that one.
There you go.
Woo.
Yeah.
So I love these little tidbits. I've had a couple of or a few different sort of options in healing and working with your mind, body, soul, and spirit. And they're all giving these little tidbits that just like you said, like you could just try it, just enact it right away without investing a whole lot and see how it goes, experiment with it. We had
Right.
someone trained in ancestral veneration. We had some neuro linguistic programming and time past life regression
Oh, I
and
love it.
time line therapy. I mean, so many different options. I love because how many of us, at least, I mean, a lot of these options if they existed, we couldn't find them, even just
Absolutely.
10 years ago. So the opportunities and accessibility, which is a huge thing we talk about here, is that everybody has opportunities. So there's accessibility to a lot of different options now, where I'm hoping that we're showing everybody the different options now, that if the only thing we ever knew about, doesn't work, well, then here's some other options and tidbits to even try before you get started. So I love,
100%.
love
And
that
just to
you
add on to
offered our
that,
listeners
one
that.
of the only things in life that I say is a 100% is that one size fits all is a lie. Always in every situation, one
There you
size
go.
fits all
Yep.
is a lie. So just
Hmm.
exactly like you're saying, there is something out there for everybody that can help them. And I went through life for 40 years being so extremely depressed. I was suicidal for about 40 years. I tried talk therapy many times, and it really did not work for me. So I want to help people understand that that's not the only kind of therapy. And there are a lot of really well-educated, smart people who do not grok this fact. I mean, I have 2 master's degrees
Oh,
and I was still like, therapy doesn't work for me. So I just want to tell you out there, it's no shame if you're thinking, well, what do you mean there's other kinds of therapy? No shame at all. We all get to where we need to be at different points. There are a lot of different ways to approach therapy, and they don't have to all be sitting and just rehashing your problems, because that does not work for a lot of people. So EMDR is another excellent
see?
therapy method that I highly recommend, that has worked for me a lot. I just really want people to understand that for me, I'm not just like, come do Reiki with me. I'm saying wherever you are in your life, whatever you have going on, there is help for you. It may not be what I offer, but I promise you there's help out there, and someone is offering something that can help you.
In some way, shape, or form, yes. And we're all trying to get that news out there so that
Yeah,
people can see all the different options. So
absolutely.
exactly. Right. We had someone speaking about EMDR. I had a holistic healing
Yeah,
person on, and they spoke about that. So yes, all of those great options. And then just specifically for the things that we talk about a lot here, like we've said, the authenticity and individuality, feeling empowered in yourself and what you like. You went through that. You are a living story of that, and how you've built your company, your business, your name, your writing, all based on, without compromising that. Can you share with us a little bit about your journey, since you're a living embodiment of it?
sure. As I mentioned, I'd been in a really dark place for a really, really long time. I'm 51 now. I was diagnosed as a small child as chronically depressed and anxious, and I'll cut ahead several decades. I was diagnosed as autistic in my late 40s. I had no idea. No idea. I'm 51 years old now. I didn't know how to explain how incredibly different I was. I knew it was something beyond depression, but I didn't know. I didn't have the tools to know. I began experiencing, for the first time in my life, seeing other women in the same situation I was on social media. I have to give props to social media, because I was seeing other very well educated women who looked like they had everything, who should be happy, and they were just not. And a lot of them were saying, it turns out I'm neurodiverse, turns out I'm autistic. And it started me thinking, because all of the things that they were saying were exactly what I had experienced in life. And the female experience of autism is generally extremely different than the male experience of autism. And especially when I was growing up back in the 70s and the early 80s, they didn't talk about autism in girls. You had to be a little boy rocking in a corner and being like scientifically gifted in order for them to even consider autism. That's not the entire autism spectrum. It's a spectrum, folks. People of all different likes and behaviors have autism. So it didn't occur to me. So this is another thing that I really like to tell people, is keep digging. If you are a person who has tried all of the conventional ways and you just are not able to be happy, do not give up. Do not think, oh, well, this is just me. God doesn't want me to be happy. No, 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 no. Please don't ever. think that about yourself, because there is a way to be happy. I had bought it. I thought, I'm a person who will never know happiness. That's just how it is. That hurts me so much to think, because it's so wrong. I am such a happy person now. But it took COVID personally for me, because I was able to work at home and come to understand that I'm not just a terrible person. I just really need a lot of alone time. COVID
Yeah.
was so good for me, because I was able, all of a sudden, everybody had to live like I wanted to live, just by
Yeah.
myself, keeping my head down, doing my work, just having a quiet life. And so when I experienced, oh my God, I'm kind of happy like this, what? It started to make sense for me. And so I asked my doctor, and she said, yeah, I kind of had wondered why you'd never brought this up before, because you're so autistic. And so she set me up with a psychiatrist. And yeah, I mean, everything has turned around since then, because I could not figure out why I couldn't make it work.
Well, you've got some validation now, and a community, and other, people to get advice from that understand.
Exactly. And now it's not, I mean, it sort of gave me permission in a way to love myself in a way that I never felt like I could before, because I felt like there must be something so fundamentally wrong with me that I'm not lovable. And I couldn't even love myself. But now, having learned that, now it was just a weird brain thing. That's all.
Yeah.
That's all.
Just
And
a
it's just
shift,
like,
and now it's all possible. And I
yeah.
wish, I mean, your story actually can, it's crazy how much so many people's stories can really resonate with me. But my aunt was born in the 40s,
Uh-huh.
okay, 1945.
Mhm.
And she, growing up in the 40s and the 50s, she was what they called, when she was diagnosed, Asperger's,
Right.
which I know is not a thing anymore.
Right.
But she wasn't diagnosed until the 80s. And she went her entire life, I mean, she passed almost 10 years ago in her 7 years ago, in her mid 70s, and still never got to find. I mean, you think about it, even 10 years ago, we didn't have all the resources, or at
Right.
least the knowledge, or the publicity of it, maybe
Right.
on the social media, or the avenues to find this stuff.
Right.
And she never got to that point, especially growing up in the 40s and 50s.
Right.
That, I mean, they didn't even, diagnose boys with
Sure.
autism back then, much
Absolutely.
like it's just, she's got a problem, she should be hospitalized, or
Right.
things like that, right? It's just,
She's weird.
it's just,
Yeah. Uh-huh.
so exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And
Mhm.
that's just, I mean, to be able to see how far we've come with that,
Right.
and the things that are available and everything now. And it's just, I mean, so grateful, right? But imagine if she or you had been able to have it earlier in life. So that's a lot of the thing why we're publicizing this, so that
Right.
people can learn it. I mean, I didn't experience my shift of acceptance and empowerment to express my interests out, in the world until 40, right? Like,
Right.
let's do it for people earlier. So
Right.
that's why we're here. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, I don't know about you, Emily, but I remember being 22 and thinking, well, this is about it. This is how it's going to be. I'm 22 now, so pretty much grown up. My life's pretty much set. So I just want to say, things change. They keep changing.
So I've had like 5 career changes since 22.
Exactly. And that's fine. It's great. It's not something to be embarrassed about. Do your own path. Do your path.
Absolutely.
Because it's your path, and nobody else's path is your path. And doing somebody else's path,
Life changes.
you're cheating yourself
Oh,
if you try to do somebody else's path.
Well, but that's the rules. You go to school, and then you go to college, and you get a degree, and then you go to work at the same, till the
I do
rest
know.
of time. No.
I do know.
But that is so the rules, right? Oh, and then you get married, and you start a family, and you have kids.
Yeah.
And then and then you've lived.
You know what? And some of us
So
are
not my path, so not your path.
And I was going to say, some of us are lucky enough to have been excluded from that path for various reasons. I was, because of my disability. I was not accepted on that path, and so I couldn't walk that path. that caused me a lot of grief for a lot of years, but now it's the thing I'm most grateful for in my life, because my path is so unique and so beautiful and has so much to offer other people who are off on that path that they don't belong in, thinking, oh God, I don't like this path. What else can I do? Look at me and Amity. You can do this. You can do anything.
And so it all happened for a reason. I mean,
Absolutely.
I know you've got advanced degrees. I've got advanced degrees. I used to be an attorney. I was in business, all the things. And then just at a drop of a hat, depending on what's best for you in life at this moment. One of the past episodes, we had just been talking about, well, what do you want from life? And everything that you're doing should make sure it's leading to that. And if it's not, it's time to switch up your path.
That's
So
exactly
that's
right.
exactly what I did at 40,
Right.
and, changed career paths, reevaluated everything, and all the decisions I make and things that I do in life now are to optimize that list and what I want out of life for me, my family, my kids, etc. And you have found that exact same path, or exact same way to follow it. And I love that you're able to express your passions and your interest in everything and make a career out of it in the way that you want to. That is the epitome of self-empowerment and authenticity. And do you have any advice for any of our listeners that might be struggling with that?
Yeah, a lot. Okay, so I was at a podcast just the other day, and they were marveling over the fact that I was in this place where I described. You haven't seen me there, they hadn't seen me there, where I was suicidal. I was 50 pounds overweight. I was drinking a bottle of wine every day. I was so desperately unhappy. They asked me, what changed? What's the one thing that you can say changed? And I could say grace. That is what changed me. And I'm not talking about a Christianity grace and any kind of organized religious grace.
No,
I'm talking about
giving
some
yourself
spirit came and
grace.
grabbed me and said, little girl, 48-year-old little girl, wake up. You can be happy. Let's make this happen. And that's what I call grace. So I don't know how to give that to people. I try to offer it and point to it as much as I can, but I am not the giver of grace. I hope that I can in some way be an instrument of grace. But other than that, I would say, get to know your nervous system. I had no idea how my nervous system worked until I was 50 years old, after I'd been diagnosed as autistic. People don't understand how at the mercy of our nervous systems we are. We have been humans the way we are for roughly 1 million years. We've been modern for about 10,000 years. That's about 5% at the most of humanity. Our bodies are tuned for hanging out, sleeping all day and hanging out with our friends, running like hell from a tiger. These really life or death, or just hanging around with your buds. That's our natural environment. People who live the way we used to in foraging societies, they only work about 3 hours a day. The rest of the time, they're just hanging out. It's a pretty cool life, if you ask me. And that's what our nervous systems are set up to do. They're not set up to deal with traffic and bosses and screaming and wars that we can see overseas that we had never seen before. None of this is natural to us. So it behooves us to understand our own nervous systems and how we react to them, and to learn whatever it takes to get that information through our body. This situation right here is not life or death. It feels like a tiger's coming after me, but a tiger ain't coming after me. It's just some boss who can just screw off, honestly, because it's not life or death. So whatever you can do, for me, tapping is a big method that I use. I tap to calm down my nervous system.
To calm it down.
Breathing methods, anything you can do, because you have got to make yourself first. Nobody else has the ability to calm your nervous system. They can try, they can help, but it's got to be you. It's got to be you that learns what gets you upset, what makes you mad, what makes you happy, and learn that and know it so that you can understand when you are actually just hungry and you're being a bitch, rather than someone has actually provoked you, and it's an appropriate time to stand up and say what
Right.
just knowing stuff like that gives you so much of an edge up on life, of just relating to your nervous system and knowing how you react, taking care of your basic needs, getting yourself food and water when you need it, and not outsourcing your happiness. Not saying, I can be a happy person when I get married. I can be a happy person when I get the job I've always wanted. Uh-uh. We're both shaking our heads. We're old enough to know,
No,
no,
we don't rely on external influences.
don't.
It's
And
ours.
even if you are deeply in love and your partner deeply loves you, don't place your happiness in that person, because I'm sorry, that person can die. I mean,
We
I
need to be happy ourselves and with our partners.
exactly,
100%. I could not agree
exactly.
more.
You want to be in a position in your life where you can say, I'm going to be okay. I might be sad. If I lose my job, it's going to kind of make things messy for a minute, but I'm going to be okay. You don't want to have
But I
your
can
entire
handle it.
well-being hanging on anything but your well-being. That's
Yep,
one of
all of
my,
your eggs in one basket, right? There's the saying for a reason.
yeah, yeah.
And I
So,
love that you said to get to know your nervous system.
yeah,
Oh, sorry. Well, just real
no,
quick, because we've been learning so much about nervous systems with one of my daughters who has, it hasn't been officially determined yet, but we're suspecting pathological demand avoidance, which is very taxing on her nervous system. So we're learning so much about that. So I love that you brought that in. And one of our other podcasters, someone I just recorded with, was talking about doing body scans regularly. And those body scans can help us figure out exactly how you were saying it relates to it, on checking in on our nervous system and what's really happening instead of what our nervous system is reacting about.
that's exactly right, because we assign stories to our reactions. Oh, well, I'm mad. That must mean that someone has wronged me in some terrible way. Well, that's
Yeah.
possible. It is possible. But let's take a minute and look at that. Is it really that we had a fight with somebody at home that morning? Or maybe we really wanted to go ride our bike and it's raining and that's just kind of got us edgy? Just really take an honest look at what's going on and don't blame yourself, because it's so easy to be like, well, I'm just hungry. God, I'm such a stupid bitch. Why didn't I know I was just hungry? Just say, oh, look at that, I'm hungry. Let me eat something. Just like you would with a little
It takes
child. You're not going
practice.
to be like, oh, you're such a terrible child. You're hungry. And why wouldn't you? Blah, blah, blah.
Well,
Give them a snack and go on.
yes.
You know?
Our inner voice is our worst critic. Exactly what you were talking about giving grace. I mean, my oldest daughter's inner voice, I can't believe how mean it can be, but I also don't want to invalidate it. But
Right.
I'm just always like, well, let's try looking at it from maybe how would your friend see it when
Right.
that happened? And she says, well, this. I was like, well, how come you're seeing it, in such a harsh way and stuff? But our inner critic, it's the hardest one. So that giving ourselves grace, forgiving ourselves, giving us permission to take that break, or it wasn't that bad, or the life or death thing was
Yes.
totally resonating with me, because sometimes I don't know, I didn't mention, but that I am a custom jeweler. I make custom fine jewelry for people for alternative interests, put meaning into their story. So with the jewelry, a lot of times, if one little thing happens or something and I get so upset about it, then I'm like, wait a minute, okay, I'm not like an EMT. I'm not working in the emergency room.
Right.
Like, this is
Nobody's
not
going to die.
the end of the world right
Yeah.
now. Exactly. It
Okay.
is jewelry, right?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
I'm constantly having to remind myself of stuff like that.
Right. And I know it's really difficult, especially when you have somebody working over you who is in that mindset, and you've got a boss. It's like, and I know it takes a lot of gall to be like, you know what? No. But if I would say, if you find
It's gonna
yourself
be
in a
okay.
situation when someone who has power over you is constantly driving you like that, get yourself out of that situation, because that's not healthy, and it's not real. It's a false sense of urgency, and it's not a healthy place to be.
Those will
My
trigger our
third
nervous
final
system
thing that I was going to
100%.
say in terms of the nervous
Oh,
system
sorry.
work is shadow work is another thing. And that speaks to the same issues that you were talking about, knowing yourself and forgiving yourself and accepting yourself.
Good.
Because I was such a resentful person the whole time that I was so depressed. I was so resentful. Like, why is this situation happening to me? Why can't anybody help me? Why doesn't talk therapy work for me? I was so resentful. I was so resentful. And I realize now the extent that that resentfulness was holding me back. And that's because of a lot of the shadow work that I did. And it would be easy for me to look back and God say, just, oh, I wasted all that time. I was so resentful. What good is that going to do me? So I look back and I say, Leah, you had a lot of resentful and you had a lot of reason to be resentful. But now we've worked on that and we can let that go. And that resentful person still lives inside me. And sometimes she'll raise up her hand and start yelling about something. And I'll talk to her. What's going on? What are we feeling resentful about? Well, I'm not getting any attention. Okay. What kind of attention do you need? Who do you need attention from? Can I give you that attention? Really, if you get to practicing that, it's much easier than it sounds to just relate to yourself in that way that you would someone to whom you feel great compassion for, a younger sister, a child.
Well, the words you're saying are like exactly how I talk to my kids. So
Yeah,
why can't I talk to myself that way?
exactly.
I possess the ability and the knowledge and I do it for them.
Right.
That is just a light bulb moment for me right there.
Good. Because you and other women, I mean, I have no children, but I have so much respect that I know that not only are you wrestling with doing this for your children, you're wrestling with doing it for yourself too. And so I know that often the tendency for moms is to say, oh, well, I can't do for me because I have to do for them. But I just want to remind you and all the other blessed, wonderful mothers out there, when you do it for you, they're going to see it. Because speaking as a child, I know I watched everything my mom did and soaked it up. So when you do it for you, they're going to see. When you're saying, oh gosh, Amity, look at you, you silly girl, you forgot that. But that's okay. It's cool. We're going to get back on track. Your kids are going to be like, hey, look at that. That's a cool way to talk to yourself. That's cool. She forgave herself. I can forgive myself too.
Definitely. We want to be a role model for them in so many ways that we just forget about the ways that when we're not actively doing it,
Exactly.
when we're just, and they're seeing it.
Mhm.
So yes, that's even more of a reason to give yourself grace.
Absolutely.
Because you're going to pass that on, that ability on.
You want them to be able to give themselves grace. Yes, you do. Yeah.
And so everything we talked about is so great. I love when I bring in all these different experts and things because I always see things in my personal life, which means I know that others that are listening are going to see things too, because it can't just be a coincidence that, oh, it's just me and we happen to have met together. So
that's why I'm
that.
so free.
But the last thing I do,
I just want to say that's why I'm so free about talking about all of this stuff. And I don't mind saying, you know, I had problems with alcohol. I had this, I had that, because I know for a fact there is somebody out there who is where I was and she wants to be where I am now. And so I'm giving her a line and I want to help her. And I will talk about any goofy, weird, ugly, nasty thing I did if it is going to be helpful for somebody else. So
it's going to help someone. That we need more people with that kind of attitude. I mean, gosh, the secrecy and everything brought up with societal norms. Right. I mean, obviously we're getting away from it, but oh man, it was hard. It was hard. I mean, I was brought up that way because I had boomer parents. So like when I started struggling with some things with my kids, my first instinct was, oh, don't say anything. And then I'm like, wait a second. 8 million more people know more about this than I do. Why would I keep it a secret? I'm going to learn so much more.
That's exactly
But I had to actively do that. Right. I had to actively be like, wait a second, and think and do that. It wasn't natural. So, you know, we're evolving. We're going as we go. I do want to cover, I mean, you mentioned it for a second, but I do just want to cover before we go, your podcast, just what you talk about so our listeners can subscribe too.
Sure. Yeah. I have one season out. I'm right now in the process of inviting people for my second season. It's called Empower Your Magical Self. I identify as a witch. I have since I was 16. I love magic. Magic means everything to me. And I'm not talking about David Copperfield. Oh, you know, I'm talking about the
Harry Potter.
Yes. Woo! No, I'm talking about like the real deal inside yourself. This stuff that Amity and I are talking about, this is magic to me. ripping away all that societal programming and getting to the good down inside, that's magic. So that's what magic is to me. Reiki is magic. The fact that she and I could have this wonderful conversation here, I feel it in my heart. I think she probably does too. And we've never met before, and we're in different places. That's magic. That is magic right there to me. So everything that I incorporate into my life, I look at it in terms of magic and what magic can it bring to my life. So all of the people who I have on my podcast are people who have brought magic to my life. I love high vibe music, which is like rap music that's very like affirmations, like talking, like high vibe affirmations set to a rap beat. That's like my thing. So I had a couple of high vibe rap musicians on my show last year. I've had writers. They're generally people who I have seen in either read their work or seen and just gone, I can't believe the magic that person is making. And so I have them on my show. So every person I have on my show is someone who has just blown me away with their magic and their talent. So you'll often find me fangirling on my show, just like, and then what did you do? What did you do after that? You know, it's just like, it's so joyful. So I love my podcast, and I come fangirl with me, Empower Your Magical Self. There's 13 episodes out, and I'll have 13 coming out starting in September.
And I will link everything below so that our listeners can just go right to it. Side note, I didn't realize that the rap affirmations was a whole subset, because we do, funny enough, listen to Snoop Dogg's affirmation for kids in the morning to get my kids woke up and like doing that stuff.
It's going to be an amazing day, right? Isn't that the Snoop Dogg one?
Yes. Yeah. My mommy loves me. Yeah, I love all of that.
There's nobody better to be than myself. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I made a video to that. I have like, I've made thousands of like TikTok videos, and I have a video of me doing that. So yeah, I know that.
I just never realized it's a whole
thing.
Subset of everything. So now I want to go look into it. Yeah. Dude, so that's really interesting.
It's so good. It's just, oh my God, it's amazing. It's the most, because, you know, I wanted to listen to stuff that was uplifting, but I didn't want it just to be like, it's a really happy day, you know, which is fine. But
that would stress me out. Stress me out.
Like high cloud kind of tunes, you know, so this is like guttural, you know, it's good. It's good music. So I love to talk with those folks, because it's just, it's like this next generation, the young people. I'm so impressed with youth. I love the youth. And I think they're just, you know, I say all the time, if there's any hope for this world, it's them. It's those young people, because I don't know what's going to happen.
So many
my God, they're an impressive group of people. So have at least
we'll
that
have to
hope.
see what happens.
Yeah.
But I discovered so many cool things, right? Even just this last thing. I never know what I'm going to learn when I bring a guest on.
Isn't that
I
cool?
definitely wasn't going to expect that, but
right.
Yeah, it's so cool. I'm so glad that you joined us and talked with us and everything. And so thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Amity.
For the listeners, please share with anybody that you think might find this beneficial. Like, subscribe, follow mine, Leah's, everything that you can, because that's how we keep it going. And that's how more people can find out all of these things that we're trying to share for the world and gain accessibility. So thank you again for being here, and we'll see you next time.